In the discussion on accelerator techniques, we will be dealing with high voltage DC accelerators in the first video. We'll be discussing on high voltage DC accelerators such as a cascade generator, Van de Graaff accelerator, and tandem Van de Graaff accelerator. Accelerators and beams. All accelerators use electromagnetic forces to boost the energy of stable charged particles. These are injected into the machine from a device that provides a high intensity source of low energy particles, for example an electron gun, which is a hot filament or a proton ion source. The accelerators used for nuclear structure studies may be, in general, classified into those that develop a steady accelerating field, or which are also known as DC machines, and those in which radio frequency electric fields are used, and these are known as AC machines. And all accelerators for particle physics are of the latter type. The DC accelerators. Let's now discuss on its principle. This figure shows the schematic diagram of a DC accelerator. A DC accelerator consists of a high voltage generator, a particle source which produces particles which are to be accelerated, and these particles are accelerated in an electric field, and finally they are incident on a target. And this assembly is enclosed in a vacuum tube, and what you see here is the particle beam. The simplest particle accelerators use a constant electric field between two electrodes produced by a high voltage generator. One of the electrodes contains the particle source. In the case of electron beams, this is a thermionic cathode widely used in vacuum tube technology. Protons as well as light and heavy ions are extracted from the gas phase by using a further DC or high frequency voltage to ionize a very rarefied gas and so produce a plasma inside the particle source. Charged particles are then continuously emitted from the plasma and are accelerated by the electric field. In the accelerating region, there is a relatively good vacuum in order to avoid particle collisions with residual gas molecules. The particles are thus continuously accelerated without any loss of energy until they reach the second electrode. There, they exit the accelerator and usually traverse a further field-free drift region through which they travel at constant energy until they reach a target. This principle is very widely employed in research and technology, and all modern video screens and oscilloscopes are based upon it. In electrostatic accelerators, the maximum achievable energy is directly proportional to the maximum voltage which can be developed, and this gives the energy limit. The Cockcroft-Watson cascade generator. The Cockcroft-Watson accelerator is the prototype of an electrostatic accelerator. This was first built by J.D. Cockcroft and E.T. Watson in 1932, and they achieved a high voltage of about 700 kV to study nuclear reactions with an accelerator. In their experiment, they used a proton beam of kinetic energy about 400 keV, and Cockcroft and Watson shared the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1951. The high voltage generator of the Cockcroft-Watson accelerator is the well-known cascade generator or voltage multiplier circuit invented by H. Greenacre in 1921. It consists of a high volt transformer, high voltage capacitors, and high voltage diodes. And the figure on the left shows a cascade generator with 4 such stages. The capacitors are stacked in 2 vertical columns, that is P and S, and these are capped by a large rounded terminal electrode. The capacitors in the pushing column P are charged during the negative half period of the sinusoidal AC voltage, and the capacitors in the smoothing column S are charged during the positive half period. In steady state, the voltages at the breakpoints of the pushing column P amounts to U0 plus U0 sine omega t, 3U0 plus U0 sine omega t, 5U0 plus U0 sine omega t, and 7U0 plus U0 sine omega t. Here, U0 is the amplitude of the AC voltage from the transformer. In steady state, the voltages at the breakpoints of the smoothing column S amounts to 2U0, 4U0, 6U0, and 8U0. With n such stages, high voltages of 2nU0 can be achieved. Extracting a DC current causes a mean voltage drop delta U and a ripple delta U, which are proportional to the DC current I. And the total voltage is given by U equal to 2nU0 minus delta U plus or minus delta U, where delta U is given by I by Fc times 2 by 3 n cube plus 3 by 4 n square plus 1 by 12 n, and small delta U equal to I by Fc times n plus 1 over 2. In these expressions, F is the frequency of the AC voltage and C is the capacitance of the capacitors. In order to keep delta U and delta U small, one should choose the frequency F and the capacitance C as large as possible and limit the number n of the cascade units. And typical values of F are from 0.1 to 10 kHz, and the values of capacitance are from 1 to 10 nanofarad, and the number of stages are selected to be between 3 and 5. The ripple delta U can be reduced by an additional RC filter. The value of the electric field at the surface of the electrodes must be kept small in order to avoid excessive corona discharges. Therefore, we use intermediate electrodes and the terminal electrodes that are formed such that sharp edges and spikes at the outer surface are avoided. And aluminium is the most commonly used material because it can be spun to the desired spherical shape. The value of the electric field at the surface of rounded electrodes with a local curvature radius r is simply given by E equal to U over R. We will now discuss about the accelerating tube. The accelerating tubes are installed in an evacuated ceramic isolator. The full high voltage is distributed among several tubes, yielding a stepwise acceleration of the beam. Thus, the local value of the accelerating electric field E is reduced and voltage stability is increased. For the same reason, all inner electrodes are rounded and polished. In order to avoid distortions of the ion trajectories by charge islands on the isolator walls, the accelerating tubes should be overlapping such that an ion cannot see the isolator walls. The ion beam starts at the plasma boundary of the ion source. It is extracted and formed with an aid of an extraction electrode. The acceleration by the rotational symmetric electric fields of the accelerating tube acts like a focusing lens. A proper adjustment of this focusing yields a beam envelope with a beam waist at the target. The target is placed here, and this is the direction of the beam that is being accelerated. The Van de Graaff accelerator. This figure shows the schematic of the Van de Graaff accelerator. The accelerator comprises of two parts. The first part is the high voltage generator, and the second part is the particle accelerator unit. And this is a belt charged electrostatic generator, first developed by R.J. Van de Graaff in 1931. The Van de Graaff generator is made up of a motor-driven belt which is made up of rubber, vulcanized fabric, or another flexible insulating material, and this belt is stressed between two rollers, or which are known as pulleys. And there is an insulating column and a spherical rounded high voltage terminal which is installed on top of the insulating column. So this one is the spherical voltage terminal that is installed on top of the insulating column. The belt is electrically charged by a brush that is seen here, or a comb of metallic wires which is connected to a DC voltage source. The amount of electric charge sprayed onto the belt is controlled by the voltage UC. The charge, which can be negative or positive depending on the polarity of the source, is carried by the belt to the terminal electrode. Here, the charge is transferred from the belt to the terminal electrode by a second brush or comb of metallic wires. Electric charges accumulate over the surface of the terminal electrode. The resulting terminal voltage is a function of the diameter of the terminal electrode. The terminal behaves like a spherical capacitor which has a capacitance C equal to 4 pi epsilon epsilon 0 times R. So this turns out to be 1.11 times 10 raised to minus 10 farad per meter times R, where R is the radius of the terminal electrode. If it is an air insulated electrode with R equal to 1 meter, then the capacitance value becomes 111 picofarad. If a spherical terminal of radius R1 is enclosed within a grounded concentric shell of radius R2, the capacitance C in that case will be given by 4 pi epsilon 0 epsilon R1 R2 divided by R2 minus R1. So this is equal to 1.11 times 10 raised to minus 10 farad per meter times R1 R2 over R2 minus R1. The terminal voltage U is proportional to the charge Q accumulated on the terminal electrode, and this is given by Q over C. In order to achieve high voltages than about 1.5 MV, the Van de Graaff accelerator is enclosed in a high pressure vessel. A modification of the Van de Graaff accelerator is the tandem Van de Graaff accelerator, or which is again known as a pelletron. So this figure shows a schematic of the pelletron. The main difference between the pelletron and the Van de Graaff accelerator that we have discussed just now is in the belt that is being employed. The pelletron uses charging chains, and these were developed by Herb and his collaborators at the National Electrostatics Corporation (NEC) in the mid-1960s as an improvement over the older Van de Graaff charging bells. The bells in the Van de Graaff accelerator suffered from a number of operational difficulties, including terminal voltage instability and susceptibility to spark damage. Also, they generated belt dust, which necessitated frequent cleaning inside the accelerator tank. The chain rapidly proved to be more durable than the old bells, while producing a greater terminal stability than had been possible before. And it also eliminated the belt dust problem as well. The chain does not limit ultimate terminal potential, and it is in use in electrostatic accelerators up to and above 25 MV. Pelletron chains are made up of metal pellets connected by insulating nylon links. The metal pellets or plates are charged using the effect of influence in an electric field. For positive charging, the electric field between the negatively biased insulator electrode and the pulley pushes electrons off the pellets while they are in contact with the grounded drive pulley. Since the pellets are still inside the electric field, as they leave the pulley, they retain a net positive charge. The chain then transports this charge to the high voltage terminal where the reverse process occurs. When it reaches the terminal, the chain passes over a negatively biased suppressor electrode, which prevents sparking as the pellets make contact with the terminal pulley. The positive charge flows smoothly via the terminal pulley to the terminal. Most pelletrons employ a down charging as well as an up charging. Down charging works identically to up charging, except the inductor or suppressor polarities are reversed, and it effectively doubles the charging capacity of the chain. Typical charging currents are in the order of 100 to 300 microampere, and with this, high voltages up to 30 megavolts have been reached. The terminal voltages can be regulated and controlled by varying the charging voltage UC between the inductor or suppressor electrodes and pulleys, and charging voltages up to 50 kV are used. By reversing the polarities of the charging voltages, the pelletron generators can easily be used to accelerate electrons and negative ions. The charging chain for high voltage generation exhibit an excellent voltage stability, a high reliability, and a long lifetime over 50,000 hours.